Have you ever stopped to think about the insane journey a single product takes to get to you? I mean, from a factory somewhere on the other side of the planet all the way to your doorstep, it's this massive, almost invisible network of ships, planes, and trucks. Well, today, we're talking about how that global machine is getting a massive upgrade. Basically, it's getting a brain, all thanks to artificial intelligence.
We all just take for granted that this global supply chain works. It's the lifeline that keeps our stores stocked and our packages showing up. But what most of us never see is just how unbelievably complex and, honestly, how fragile the whole system can be. And this is a question we have all asked ourselves, right? You order two things on the exact same day. One shows up tomorrow, and the other just disappears into the void for a while. The answer to that mystery is all tangled up in this huge logistical puzzle that's happening behind the scenes.
And here's the thing, that puzzle is getting way, way harder to solve. Supply chains today are under a ton of pressure. Nobody knows what demand is going to look like tomorrow. There are risks of disruption everywhere, and the competition is just brutal. All this makes the system really brittle, it's prone to just snapping.
So how in the world do you deal with all that growing chaos? Well, this is where AI steps in. And the best way to think about it is pretty simple, but really powerful. If the supply chain is this giant, powerful machine, AI is the smart control system. It's the brain that it's been missing all along.
But let's be clear, what do we actually mean by AI here? A really good, simple way to define it is this. It's the ability of machines to communicate with us and, more importantly, to imitate what we humans can do. So we're not just talking about number crunching, we're talking about mimicking actual intelligence.
And that right there is the key difference, the huge shift. For ages, supply chains have just been reactive. They just follow a list of commands. If something goes wrong, you deal with it after the fact. But with AI, the whole system becomes proactive. It can start to see problems before they happen, it can learn from its mistakes, and it can adapt on the fly.
So how does AI actually pull this off? Let's pop the hood and take a look inside its toolkit. We're going to break down 3 really powerful tools that are totally changing the game. First up, we've got something called expert systems. Now this, I think, is fascinating. Imagine you could take all the knowledge, the experience, even the gut feelings of your most seasoned human expert and bottle it up. That's what this does. It creates a digital mentor, a program that can make decisions just like that expert would, but it can do it at an insane scale, almost instantly. And this isn't just a cool idea. The results are kind of nuts. Take IBM. They put an expert system in place at one of their facilities. The outcome? A 35% jump in output, and they saved about $10 million. That is the power of scaling expertise. Okay, next in the toolkit are genetic algorithms. This is where AI starts to feel a little bit like science fiction. It literally copies Darwin's theory of evolution. So say you've got a crazy complex problem, like finding the best delivery route for 100 different trucks. The algorithm just creates thousands of possible solutions, makes them compete against each other in a kind of survival of the fittest. And after hundreds or thousands of generations, the best possible solution just naturally evolves. It's often a solution a human would never have even thought of.
And you can see how this would be useful for all sorts of logistical nightmares. Genetic algorithms are perfect for stuff like vehicle routing, figuring out the absolute best way to pack a shipping container, designing a warehouse layout, or even picking the best suppliers out of a huge list.
Our third tool is agent-based systems. And the whole idea here is pretty simple. Divide and conquer. You take a massive supply chain problem, you break it down into a bunch of smaller tasks, and you assign each one to a specialized little piece of software called an agent. It's like having a team of digital specialists where each one is an expert in its own little area, and they all work together to solve the bigger problem. And you can see just how versatile these systems are. They've become one of the most popular tools in the AI toolbox, simply because you can use them in so many different parts of the supply chain. You'll see them handling everything from forecasting demand all the way to running complex negotiations. Okay, so we've looked at the tools. Pretty cool stuff. But what's the real-world payoff here? Let's get down to brass tacks and look at the actual numbers. Because really, at the end of the day, this is the question that every business wants answered. What does giving this global machine a brand new brain actually look like on the balance sheet? Let's go back to that IBM number because it's worth really thinking about. A 35% increase in output. That isn't just some minor improvement. That's a fundamental change in what that facility can do. And it was all driven by turning human expertise into software.
And that massive boost in output translated directly into cold, hard cash, $10 million saved. So this shows AI isn't just about being a little more efficient, it's about avoiding huge expenses by making the stuff you already have work way, way smarter. And look, IBM is not some weird outlier here. The US Air Force used a similar system and improved their inventory management by up to 18%. Another study found a freight company cut down their planning time by an incredible 70%. So the gains are real and they are huge. So, where does all this go from here? What's next for this technology? What does the future of delivery actually look like? Now, we've got to be realistic. AI is not a magic wand that solves everything. There are still some really big challenges. I mean, how do you really download the intuition of a human expert? That's tough. And how do you teach an AI to handle the complete and total chaos of a global cross-border system? These are major hurdles we're still working on. But as the tech gets smarter, as it gets more and more woven into everything, it leads to a really fascinating final thought. Will the global supply chain become so smooth, so efficient, so intelligent that we just stop noticing it's there at all? You know, this perfect invisible machine that we only ever become aware of on that rare occasion that it actually stops working. It's definitely something to think about.